There is an epidemic happening in men today. Weakness and comfort has taken place of strength and purpose. Masculinity is labeled as toxic, and women are now the ones who define what a man is more than men are. Weak fathers are raising lost boys who are at risk of never being initiated into manhood. We've grown farther and farther from God, which led us to become weaker and weaker. The man within fights back by introducing men to their true strength and purpose through God. So join me, and together we can restore true strength and purpose in men. Hello, and welcome to the Man Within podcast. If this is your first time here, welcome. So happy to have you. The Man Within helps men grow into godly manhood by introducing them to biblical masculinity and doing anything and everything that we as men can do to help each other grow physically, financially, mentally, and spiritually. Like Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, which is why we try to help keep men accountable by giving them the raw truth and helping them find their path to godly purpose. Now, if you're just joining us, we are in part 4 of a series on purpose. In this series, we're breaking down what purpose is, where it comes from, how to find it, and how to find your gifts so that you can start your journey and pursue the purpose and the calling that God designed specifically for you. Now, in order to get the most out of this series, grab a pen and paper and make sure you're actively listening and watch the episodes in order. Don't skip to the end of the videos or just pick and choose. This took me a long time to learn, and I promise you won't pick it all up the first time you watch it. Pause the video as many times as you need, take notes, rewatch it, and reach out to me if you have any questions. That's what I'm here for. You can't cut any corners with this. You can't put the cart ahead of the horse when it comes to purpose or anything of God's design for that matter. Now, at the end of each episode, I'll give you an exercise that's designed to help make you see from a different perspective and help you take a few powerful steps. And if you're interested in taking actionable steps with accountability from me or from a group of men, I've got a 40-day challenge that was created to help you implement some of those powerful habits that help me and many others break free from their negative beliefs, get in the best shape of their life, start their business, and set their life up for success. So if you're interested in that, click on the link that says join the Man Within community, or you can reach out to me directly at cameronwestcoaching@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram at the Man Within podcast. All that said, let's go ahead and get back into our purpose series. Now, in the last 3 episodes, we covered what purpose is, what it isn't, and we discovered a few hard truths about purpose. Again, if this is your first episode, go back and watch the first 3 and make sure you do those exercises. They were put in that order for a reason. Now, today we're going to define what a calling is. A calling is a little bit different than purpose. In the second episode, when we defined what purpose is, we discovered that we all have the same ultimate purpose, which is to glorify God, but we all have a different calling. The purpose is the main target, and the calling is the means of getting there. In other words, we all have the same mission, but different roles on the team. Now, it should feel like an incredible honor to be assigned such a divine role from God Himself. If you are here and alive on this earth, God has assigned a specific role for you. To be a part of His design, we must continually be growing into it. Just like any honorable role here in the world, whether you're a doctor or the captain of an NFL team, you don't just earn the title and quit. You have to continue to earn the spot. Now, God already knows that we are enough for His plans, which is why He placed us here. So it's up to us to get up, take action, and prove to ourselves that we have what it takes through faith, perseverance, and submission to God. And we do that through pursuing our calling. So what is this calling? I've broken down the definition of a calling because just like anything we do, it's good to have a clear purpose and intention before we walk into it. So let's go ahead and break down what a calling is. I've broken the definition of a calling down into a few parts. So starting with number 1, calling is something that will never leave your heart or mind. When I'm working with someone to find a path forward in their life, I always start by asking them, what do they love to do? What can they see themselves doing for the rest of their life without getting tired of it? Then I ask them if they have a vision that they've been thinking about for a long time. The answers I get are often unexpected and inspiring. An engineer wants to be an author. An ex-prisoner wants to open a bakery. A multi-millionaire wants to sell everything off and spend his life doing mission trips. I myself was surprised when God told me I was going to help lead men into godly manhood. It doesn't always make sense to us, especially at first, because we're not the ones who came up with it. It was given to us before we were born. Ephesians 2:10. Our calling doesn't originate from the world, it originated from God. This is why it's so important for us to renew our minds through the Spirit so we don't miss it. Romans 12:2. Before, it starts off as some nagging thing in the back of our mind, and eventually it burns a fire in our soul. This calling is stronger than just a feeling. It's an inherent instinct, something we were born with. It's a part of us that God placed within us. It's one of those mysterious gifts, like a conscience, that tells us whether or not we're going in the right direction. It's our distinguishing factor that makes us unique. We can't all have the same role on the team, otherwise, some very important tasks won't get done. Your job is to do whatever your calling is with all your strength and do it to the glory of God. Number two, your calling is specific to your spiritual gifts. Have you ever noticed something that you're really good at? Something that you stand out in? Maybe it's sports or math or science or leadership or something else. If you're looking for your gift, I like the way that Tony Robbins puts it. He says, your gift is what you do best effortlessly. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 8 through 10, Paul lays out the idea of spiritual gifts given to us by the Spirit. Some have the gift of wisdom, some knowledge, others prophecy or healing, and so on. But Paul wasn't laying out an exhaustive list of what God gives us the power to do. He's helping us see that we are all gifted in some way, in some area, by the grace of God. Now, I plan on making an episode just on the topic of spiritual gifts, but here I'm just going to give a brief overview. Your spiritual gifts are different from the rest of God's gifts. God has given everyone the gift of faith, a sound mind, courage, forgiveness, love, so on. You can think of God's gifts as promises for all his children, and the spiritual gifts as the tools that are allocated to each person according to their specific calling. This calling is a tool, and these tools were not given to us by mistake, and we're certainly not meant to take them for granted. In Romans 11:29, we're told that God's gifts and his call are irrevocable. We don't get to choose it, and we can't choose a different one. We were placed here for a very specific reason, which is why the calling was placed within us inherently before we were born. The calling isn't going to change whether or not you decide to pursue it. It's not going to change whether or not you decide to use your gifts for him or for your own selfish desires. You may not like what you've been asked to do, especially at first when it doesn't make sense, but you may find out that you actually love using your gifts when you start to see what they can do for you, your life, and for others. It's never a bad thing to be so good at something that the rest of the world is willing to pay you top dollar to do it. And if you're afraid to pursue your calling or you don't want to, just remember God has equipped you with the spiritual gift you need to do that specific thing. You're not going to find joy or happy or meaning in something else. And number two, you should be more afraid of ignoring God than you are of the world's criticism. Now, number three, your experience shapes your calling. After being on this earth for nearly 30 years and talking with thousands of people, I've realized that everyone has a story. It's true when they say God didn't promise us a life of ease. I've also discovered that oftentimes those with the greatest triumphs also endured some of the greatest battles. In fact, it was their personal battles that motivated them to get in the role they're in. What's even more amazing is they didn't do it for the money. They did it because they loved it and they were passionate about what they could do with it. A world-renowned cancer researcher lost his mom to cancer at a young age. A motivational speaker suffered countless tragedies and found a way through them by the grace of God. A soldier wants to liberate others after living as a slave himself for years. Your calling is revealed to you after the storm. The top performers in each occupations are the ones who are most passionate about it. It may not seem like there's a reason for all the trauma that we've been through or that we're currently going through, but Romans 8:28 reminds us that all things work together for the good of those who love God. And Proverbs 14:23, we know that there is profit in all toil. There's no such thing as hard work that doesn't gain something. When you reflect on your own struggles, don't think of them as merely painful experiences that have no meaning. Ask God what He's preparing you for. Our calling is generally given to us when we are prepared to receive it. God needed you to be at a certain position and a certain place and time. Some people don't receive their callings until their 60s. Some know what they're going to do by the time they're 15. Imagine if you were in control of delegating important roles in a multi-billion-dollar company. You wouldn't assign a toddler as your CFO, but if you saw great potential in someone who's only 18, you'd start preparing them for the role by giving them greater and greater challenges and some more responsibilities. If you're going through some hard times right now, you ought to rejoice because it means God's preparing you for something greater than where you are right now. Don't fight it. Ask for strength to get through it. And number four, your calling is eternal. In order for us to be motivated to pursue a lifelong mission, we need something big. We need something that goes beyond where we are right now. We need something that can never be fully achieved here on earth. That thing lies in eternity. One of the things that keeps us motivated is a worthy challenge. Our natural growth pattern looks something like this. Make a goal, work hard, achieve the goal, set a bigger goal, repeat. We don't just work until we hit a target. We have to continue to set bigger and higher targets because if we don't, our life starts to lose its meaning and our role here on earth starts to feel meaningless. That's what happens when we set our sights on materialistic, worldly goals. You can only buy so many houses or cars before you realize there's more to this life. The calling that God placed in our hearts lies in eternity because He needed to make sure that we always had something to strive for. Ecclesiastes 3:11. The calling is rooted in a lifelong pursuit of eternal gifts like peace, hope, faith, and love. Have you ever noticed how when you place a material thing as your target, you're actually searching for one of those eternal gifts? For example, if your goal is to get a nice boat, ask yourself why you want it. You might say you want more freedom, while Jesus is the truth that sets us free. You want to look cool so you can attract the right kind of women, when really what you're looking for is a wife so you can start a family and experience real, genuine love. Do you see how pursuing a calling can get you there, can actually get you to those eternal gifts? The motivational speaker saves lives by giving people hope. The chef lets people experience joy. The missionary helps people experience true freedom. The beautiful thing about giving eternal gifts is that you tend to receive them tenfold. When it comes to your calling, the target should be in heaven, which is beyond where we are right now. And lastly, your calling always serves others. Your calling is meant to serve God as much as it serves you. The best way to serve God is to serve others. We weren't designed to live alone and work for ourselves alone. We were designed to work together and serve one another. That's why God created Eve for Adam to be a helper so they could work together. That's why we all have strengths and weaknesses that others do not. 2 Timothy 1:9 says, God has saved us and called us to a holy life. That means our calling is set apart and to be done for God. If we are to pursue God's calling, we have to do it God's way. Now, have you ever listened to amazing people explain the reason why they got started? If you listen closely, it's always about helping others in some way. The creators of the email wanted to provide a quick and easy way to communicate with people around the world. The inventor of the first car wanted to provide a better way to travel. The butcher wanted to bring families together for Sunday barbecue. If we're serving others, what we're really doing is serving God because we're spreading love, and God is love. Now, notice how love is one of those eternal gifts. When someone asks you why you want to pursue your calling, your answer won't simply be, I want to help others. You will know why and how you want to help others because it'll be tied to your experiences and your gifts. You'll want to help others through the same struggles you've endured and show them how they can experience the true freedom and the true blessings and the true eternal gifts. There's no better way to serve another than to show them what their gifts are and show them what their true potential is. So now I've got a few exercises for you to complete. So go ahead and grab something to write on, something to write with. Take your time with these questions, reflect on them, and ask God for help. All right, question number one. What calling has been placed on your heart? Number 2, what's a vision that you've had for a long time? Number 3, is there anything that you're exceptionally good at, something that you tend to be better at than others with a lot less effort? Number 4, how can you use what you're good at to help with your vision? Number 5, how have your experiences shaped your vision? And number 6, how does your vision serve others? Guys, thank you so much for listening. On the next episode, we're going to look at how you can be sure you're on the right track with your calling. If you gained any value from this episode, please like and subscribe and leave a comment on any topics you'd like to learn more about. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.